What's up, everybody? Welcome into M&M&M Across the Board. Ashley Miller, Sean Martin, Eric McDowell with you as we are every week. And guys, we haven't been on since the draft, so we are still going to react to the draft, what we liked about our teams, what we didn't, just overall draft impressions. We're going to go MLB first month disappointments, surprises, that kind of thing, whether it's your team or not. And we're going to hit on the NBA playoffs so far. So a lot to do. Let's get into it. We're going to start with the draft just so we can kind of put that behind us because it's getting old at this point. But anybody
have draft in the room?
Yeah. Anybody want to start with their overarching thoughts or surprises or anything like that?
My thought was kudos to the NFL GMs for watching our show. Look, they listened. They didn't overreach for the quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And I actually felt really bad for Malik Willis. It always happens. Somebody slides and they keep showing him with their family. I felt bad for the kid, but third round, I mean, that just tells you, I mock the mock drafters because they think they know what they're talking about. You don't have a clue.
Yeah.
You don't have a clue what's going on in the team's war room. So it was interesting to see the NFL actually do that and say, okay, we're not taking a quarterback just because we need one and this class is not good. So they stayed true to themselves. And you know what? Tennessee probably got themselves a really good third round pick in Malik Willis. And same with Desmond Ridder to Atlanta. And he could sit behind Marcus Mariota till he pulls a hammy in the first practice and has to take first string reps. But that's the plan.
He's not sitting behind Marcus Mariota, I bet. So
I love Mariota as a backup. He gets hurt too much. But yeah, it was right. And I enjoyed it. My team didn't have a pick till late Friday night. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it. And it was fun. And you know what? Even though I dislike most teams in the league, I like one. The draft is different. Okay. The Chargers take a player. I'm happy for that kid. His whole family was going nuts. I love watching the videos, whether they're there or they're at home. It's fun theater. I'll start disliking you in September when they play for real. But for that night, hey, good for those guys. And it's a dream come true. And to see the reactions, especially their parents, that's money. That's why I watch that stuff. You know, that's emotion. You can't script that stuff.
And they were styling. I can't even imagine wearing
always.
My daughter, Sarah, as you know, is almost 11. And she said, Daddy, did you wear that in disco? I probably did. Two teams stood out to me, guys. Baltimore, they just nailed it. They got the first round pick round. They had 11 overall. Kyle Hamilton at 14, I think, was a steal. They got great picks. Safety, center, edge, first 45. They had a great quality and quantity draft because that team, I think, was stale, to be honest with you. They needed some refreshment. And then you got to give love to the Lions. They roared. They started having Hutchinson staring them at 2. Thank you very much. We talked about Jameson Williams and moving up to get him at 12. I know that caused a lot of groans in rooms around the country, but the injury didn't scare off Detroit. A lot of these guys recovering from injury, they were not scared of. We noticed that in this draft. And I think this was the best weekend the Lions have had, including the fall weekends, in years. Don't you think they had a phenomenal draft? Good for them.
Yeah, listen, and things fell their way, but I really like when teams are aggressive and go get what they want. Yeah. Whether or not it works out, if you like a guy, go get him. That's all a fan base wants is aggressiveness, whether or not it works out. And so I like the Jameson Williams pick. Listen, if he continues to be injured, ACLs are so different these days, though. You know what I mean? An ACL is no longer what it used to be, and people aren't as afraid of an ACL injury. So I like that pick for them. Hutchinson is a no-brainer at 2 because for the longest time, people thought he would go number 1 overall. I like what the Lions did. I think you're right. I think the Ravens, other than the Jets, I think the Ravens had one of the best drafts of anyone because there was no want for a safety 1 through 10. It wasn't a position of need for any team except for the Ravens. So they got potentially a top 4 guy in Kyle Hamilton as their first pick at 14, which is pretty incredible. To me, the Jets won the draft. It's hard not to love what the Jets did. And I said this to Chris on his podcast. For the first time in a very long time, both New York teams didn't screw it up. Yeah. They had top 10 picks, 2 of them, which is franchise-changing stuff, and neither of them messed it up. They picked the best players at their highest position of need and filled a huge spot, huge roles on their team. And then what I liked most about the Jets is, again, aggressive. After their 2 top 10 picks, they trade back up into the end of the first round and they get Jermaine Johnson, a guy who was top 15 on most people's draft boards. So I loved what the Jets and Giants did.
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine from downstate text me and say, I want the Florida State kid at 10. And then they took Garrett Wilson and they ended up getting Johnson later. I texted him the next morning. I'm like, that's a pretty nice go to bed moment there. I thought the Giants were outstanding. If I were the Jags running that show, I'd have taken Thibodeau 1. That's just me. Evan Neal is a road grader from Alabama. Anytime a guy's been a multi-year starter at Alabama, that's a win. And the Giant, the player that I really liked that they took was Wan'Dale Robinson. He's small, but he'll make plays if you use him right. I'm familiar with him from his days at Nebraska before he broke my heart and left and went to Kentucky last year. He's a player, and he will contribute. He can be a running back. He's a receiver. He'll be a special teams guy. Again, he's small, but as soon as the Giants picked him, I thought of Dave Meggett. Smaller Dave Meggett. But if you use him right, he could be a great weapon for them because he can do anything.
Yeah, and listen, the Jets guys, not even after that, like the trade that they made, they got the 101st pick. They got a tight end, which is a position of need for them. And oh, by the way, at 36, they picked arguably the best running back in the entire class in Breece Hall. So they crushed it. They will be a better team this year, whether or not it's, enough to get them to the top of or even second in that division. Who knows? But they did what they were supposed to do. The other team that I thought, holy cow, is the Eagles. As much as it pains me to say it, the Eagles have now inserted themselves into the conversation of top in that division. And it's not hard to do, but they went out and traded for A.J. Brown, which that immediately tells you that they're going for it because they are now going to give Jalen Hurts a legitimate chance to be the quarterback of that franchise and to see what he can do. So the trade, yes, but everything else that they did, they got Jordan Davis from Georgia at defensive tackle. Oh, by the way, they got Nakobe Dean, who fell all the way to 83. So the 2 Georgia guys that they got, they, again, filled positions of need, but also got pretty lucky. But again, aggressive, and some of that paid off. So, Eric, I loved what the Eagles did.
Yeah, and Buffalo you talk about aggressive. Buffalo moved up floor to get Elam, Florida, and that's a corner that they grabbed, also playing offense because somebody else in the division couldn't get him. And I'm really happy for Stingley going number 3. I mean, that's a testament to the fact, as we said before, he was one of the best athletes in the draft, and a lot of people thought he would go lower. I thought the Pats could have had a shot at him, but it's a great choice, something Houston finally did right. They have a number 1 corner. They need to do a lot more, but a lot of teams would have loved to get him. So I know his grandfather is very happy right now, too.
The Nakobe Dean, I kept waiting because the more he dropped, the closer the Raiders came to making their first pick. And I think it was 2 in front of us. And I was like, please, let 2 more. Let him get by. He didn't. I don't know if they would have picked him. They got a pretty good grade on the offensive lineman from Memphis, Parham. The Raiders did. But I wanted Dean to drop. But 15 players from Georgia is just astounding. And that whole defense made it. And good for them. They won the national title. It was fun to watch. Back to the Jets. What I love about the draft is they draft the tight end Ruckert from Ohio State. Then you find out he's from Long Island, and I saw him post a picture of himself in a Jets uniform as a kid.
Yep.
Where it started, where it going, whatever, and then
it's
him.
So good.
Yeah, I mean that's just you can't script that stuff, like I said before, and that's what you love about the draft. The Jets, I think the Jets could be the second best team in that division now if Zach Wilson can take that step.
Yep.
Getting Breece Hall was monster to help that running game. Now you got some receivers, you got a few linemen there, and I think the 2 teams I don't think understand what they're doing. One's Dallas, their first round pick before Jerry Jones flashed his whole card to the media. I think Jerry's lost his fastball a little bit. And Eric, I'm curious on the Pats. They took a 3rd round graded lineman in the first round. I think sometimes Bill Belichick thinks he's smarter than the rest of the league. And that can bite you in the ass a little bit. It's won him a lot of Super Bowls, but sometimes it can bite you.
I was going to say, usually he is smarter than the rest of the league, though. So
that was my head scratching in honor of the grades he's been getting, C and D. fans and media, yours truly, were not in the room. I get it, but the Brain Trust has had so much success. I think the dog didn't make the picks this year. Maybe Bill did, because the draft was. He goes by, it wasn't considered need. He goes for the players in the system. He looks at the big picture. He drafted guys, many of them are over 24 years old. So he sees them as vets per se. But some of these picks, they won't make the picks at their first 3 last year, immediate impact. You're going to see them on special second, third down situations, kick returners. The priority was not cornerback and wide receiver, as much as all of us know-it-alls thought. It was about protecting the young quarterback. And can't argue with that. I think Strange is the big attraction, but they also got young linemen in Hines and Struber. I think they really improved that area. It wasn't as dangerous as Kansas City's was, but I love the receiver, Tyquan Thornton. He's got the speed. He'll be a tremendous kick returner. I think he'll have the most immediate impact of any of the players they've had, but we've seen the C's and D's, and as they say in New England, Professor Belichick, in Bill, we trust.
Yeah, usually. What do you think, Eric, about them drafting? And he's done it before. The quarterback in the 3rd round, Bailey Zappi. To me, like, you don't need a quarterback. You have a backup to Mac Jones. Just to leave it at that. Why would you use a 3rd round pick on a quarterback? You probably could have gotten somebody in the 4th or 5th round.
It's a statement for the veteran backups that are basically tokens. And he has said it before, too. You need depth at quarterback. The kid may not play all year, and then again, he could become a hassle and suddenly come in with an injury.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
And I think it is. We see what can happen to a team when your starter goes out. And so the kid may be holding the clipboard, but at least he's going to be knowledgeable of the system. So no offense to the kid. I hope we don't see him this year, but you do need depth at quarterback because it is the most important position, and an injury can devastate your entire franchise for the year. So I can see him doing that feeler on that one. No question.
The interesting part, Ashley, going back to what you brought up, the A.J. Brown trade, my first thought was, why would Tennessee do that? And same with Baltimore with Hollywood Brown. And then I heard the explanation, at least for Tennessee, that their offensive system, their style is not conducive to paying a wide receiver a $100 million contract. They're going to run the football, ball control with Derrick Henry, throw when needed. So you don't need somebody like that. So it's actually a very smart move for them to not destroy their salary cap on a position that they don't feature. I think it's crazy to give up a talent like that. Yeah. But, if it makes sense once I heard that explanation.
Yeah, and I get it, but you can't tell me that Treylon Burks is A.J. Brown. I'm not going to believe that until I see it. To compare apples to oranges is tough for me. And I also heard an explanation of the Ravens situation where this is basically them going back to 2019. They are realizing that this offense is not based on a run and gun, like shoot it way down the field. They don't need big play receivers like a Hollywood Brown. Yeah. They drafted more tight ends. They already have tight ends. They drafted more tight ends. They've got a guy like Mark Andrews. They are going back to, you know what? We're going to RPO it. We're going to let Lamar Jackson run. We're going to hand the ball off to our running backs, who hopefully this year are healthy, and we are going to hit tight ends like it's our job. So they are going to try to go back to what worked for them a few years ago. And if that's the 2019 offense, then it makes sense why forget Hollywood Brown. Let's go back to throwing to our tight ends.
Well,
I don't know if it's going to work.
It's not apples to apples with A.J. Brown and Treylon Burks. It's dollar sign versus dollar sign.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Again, it's the same as the Ravens. The Ravens are going to, my God, you're going to have, if you can cover in between the hash marks with them, it's going to make it tough because it's going to take away the passes of the tight ends. But for the Titans, you get a young wide receiver with a lot of speed, who's going to cost you a lot less than Brown, and he's going to be their weapon. And if Derrick Henry is healthy, that's the perfect system for them. I think they're crazy for doing it, but now I understand why after I heard the explanation.
Yeah. I also just think Ryan Tannehill is not the kind of quarterback who can sling it all over the place. So if you're going to load the box and try and stop Derrick Henry, good luck. But you're probably going to win a lot of games if that's your plan, and you can do that. And, okay, let him throw to Treylon Burke. Let him try and see what happens.
We talking about the NFL, and you think of parity. And I look at all these teams, and I see B+. the media and many of the people that cover the teams, B+. I'll take a B+. And I saw a handful of teams that really had poor drafts. They say Atlanta had one as well, but most of the teams came away with what they were looking for. So it tells you that it was a very deep, talented draft, and that there are more positions than just quarterbacks. It was nice to see some love for edge and old linemen. The guys in the trenches got the love as we predicted.
Tons of it.
We thought, and we saw it coming, and they got what they deserved. Big bucks.
Yeah, I enjoyed the difference of this draft versus a draft of the past where it wasn't 4 quarterbacks in the top 7 picks. I liked just giving love to different positions and teams really addressing positions of need, even if they weren't sexy, so to say. I think the Saints got a lot better, and maybe if they can get Jameis Winston back healthy, I think they're really interesting. They traded up to get a guy like Chris Olave on the other side of Michael Thomas. They drafted Trevor Penning, who was a highly rated guy on the offensive line out of Northern Iowa. And then, oh, by the way, they just signed Tyrann Mathieu. That's a better team in that division. So we'll see.
The other part about the draft I enjoyed was it wasn't drawn out. The trades were just coming. They wouldn't stop. But it was kind of nice of sitting home watching it for 3 days. Teams weren't pressed up against the clock to make their pick. They weren't hesitating, keep it moving, keeping the action going. It made for much better viewing. I love the NFL draft every year. It's a lot of fun for me. I'm a big college football fan. So I know some of these names going in the 3rd and 4th and 5th round. It's kind of interesting to see where they end up. But they kept it moving, and it didn't get stale, and you're waiting for someone to take the whole time and make their pick.
The change to 7 minutes has helped.
You know what I noticed too as an old guy is the days of the smoky cigar-filled black suit, tight black tie rooms with the dialing phone are over. It's a show, baby. Yeah. I mean, there was a pregame, and it's not even a game. The crowd they had in Vegas, are you kidding me? Wayne Newton never draws that many people anymore. Looked like Elton and Taylor Swift were doing a duet or something. You had
Wayne Newton looked awful.
I mean, it was a show. You had the flights overhead. I mean, they just kept bringing the drone back, and there's more and more people. And so we know where the NFL is now, but it is showtime, and it really was.
They got to retire Wayne Newton. He didn't look good. He didn't look good.
Yeah.
He made the Raiders' first pick, and it was painful.
No, and kudos to people like Ashley Sean who do all the production, all the prep, okay? You see it on the phone, you see it online, but the minute a kid is picked, boom, there's video. Boom, family. I mean, cameras, people have to understand, folks, that there's so much prep by teams, but how about the media? No. All the prep that they have to do.
There's a lot of people who are gathering a lot of video of really random people from really random schools.
Yep.
Because on day 3, when they're talking about the 6th round draft pick out of Harvard, and you're like, oh, there's some video. It's unbelievable.
Incredible.
I'll tell you, a lot of people don't like him. I love Mel Kiper because he knows his stuff. He follows and studies these kids.
Yeah.
And these guys can pick, like you said, the 6th round pick. He knows something. He has something ready.
Yep.
And he has at least a couple of sentences on him.
Yeah.
Whether he's watched video or whatever, but he's on top of it, and that's what makes it fun to watch. And he's a pumpkin pie guy, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll never knock a guy because you are Mel Kiper and because you are Todd McShay, because you are who you are, and because you're insiders, they're never going to get away with not doing a mock draft. They have to do it, whether or not they get it right. I will never expect them to get it right. No. I did a mock draft, and it was total you-know-what. So nobody knows anything. And they always say, they were like, as soon as somebody trades up to get, they were like, blows up the whole thing. Whether you thought you knew or not, blows it all up anyway. So.
Gotcha. No, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a blast. And I didn't watch, I used to, like when I was growing up, my dad and I would literally sit on the couch and just not move for 3 days. I really only watched the first night and then just kind of kept track on my phone because I was working. But I had a blast on that first night just watching pick by pick, the whole thing.
Last thing for me is it's a whirlwind for those kids. Obviously, there were 20 of them there, but with the Warriors, like 2 days after the draft, and one day we had our kid there. We had him in his jersey. I mean, they don't waste any time because you've got people with the tickets, the marketing. It's like, get him in here. He's our star. There's the billboard in the building. All that is that kid has, all those emotions, and suddenly you're flying to Chicago tomorrow morning and you are a star, and they treat them that way.
That's the way it goes. You get on a plane the next day and you have a press conference in your new uniform.
Yep.
Love it.
Sorry, back in the early 80s, you talk about how much the draft has changed. I used to come up with an illness every Tuesday morning of the first round I used to get the ESPN draft getting mailed to me and write it all down, and then have to wake up with a fake cough and I don't feel good and I can't go to school today, and watch the draft and be on the phone with all my buddies who did the same thing. And I remember one year I got denied. Man, you're going to school. And I had to sit on the payphone at my high school calling my friends. And it was the year the Raiders drafted Marcus Allen. I was pretty happy, but I was like, damn, I got to go to math class. This sucks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it was during the day?
Oh, it started like noon on a Tuesday.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was smarter.
Terrible. It was terrible. And you got to work on your fake sick game.
Right.
My brother taught me, take a cup of hot chocolate and throw it out the back window onto the thing and then say you vomit it. That was the go-to.
I do miss the boos in New York, though, from Radio City Music Hall. The New York Giants pick, even before they announced the name, boo, boo. It's a little different now. It's not as intimate.
They only boo Goodell, just like every time he's up there.
As they should.
That's all the boos.
Clown.
Great job, you guys. That was a lot of fun talking about the draft the last 2 weeks.
MLB.
Right? MLB. Eric, you want to start? Oh, there you go.
All right, folks, our two co-hosts know how we're going to handle this. We've got April is behind us now. May showers are coming. We're going to talk about the 3 baseball surprises. Through our roundtable.
I was going to say May flowers are coming.
May flowers. No, it's May showers. I said that on purpose. It's going to rain tomorrow again.
Oh.
We hope so. We just seeded the lawn, so keep the rain coming. But top 3 baseball surprises and the top 3, if you want to call them top, disappointments. So surprises from me, and then we'll hit the other folks. No specific order, but the Mets. If anyone thinks that an experienced manager does not make a difference, look at what Buck Showalter has done to the Mets, and plus the 5-pitcher no-hitter. How fitting when teams have early no-hitters. Remember Detroit with Jack Morris. That means it's going to be a pretty good year, and it capped by Edwin Diaz, which pleased me because he's really struggled there. That was the cherry on top. They've got an ERA under 3, 4th most runs. Max Scherzer is Max Scherzer, and they're doing this without DeGrom. The amazing Mets are really amazing. Second to me is Taylor Ward. All this talk about a kid with the Angels, all we hear about is Showtime and Trout. But here's a former catcher who has been remarkable, slugging nearly 800, 400 batting average. Ashley saw him, no doubt, playing that game out there. This Taylor has fit very nicely in an Angels uniform. Thank you. And the last one for me is Anthony Rizzo is the man. He's enjoying Yankee Stadium because Sterling would say, it's not far, but it's gone. He loves that right field porch. He's nearly got double-digit homers. The Yankees now a 10-game winning streak and counting as we do this. The streak is happening while it took Gallo forever to get his first RBI. Donaldson's hitting 208. When those guys get going, look out. So before I give you the ugly flip side of this little recording, let's hear some good stuff from you two. Ashley, what do you think? Your highlights from April.
Well, this is going to be boring because my at least teams are the same exact 3 teams that you had, but I'll throw a few different stats at you at least. So the Mets were my number 1 surprise, not surprisingly, because they're 16-8 without Jacob deGrom. They're 3 games up in the NL East over the Marlins, by the way, which we will get to some disappointments in that division as well. Huge series with the Braves right now. We're going down tomorrow. They've got a doubleheader tonight as we tape on a Tuesday. We're going down tomorrow to cover Ian Anderson's start against the Mets. But this is a huge, the series don't get much bigger early on in the season. because the Braves really could bury themselves. They won last night, which was big, but the Braves could bury themselves in that division behind the Mets if they don't pick things up. So I think the biggest thing is that they're doing this all without DeGrom. Imagine if they get DeGrom back. Their lineup is producing. It just looks like a different Mets team. So yeah, they were my number one surprise. To me, the Angels are number 2. They're 15-9, and they're finally getting pitching outside of Shohei Ohtani. And oh, by the way, it's Patrick Sandoval and Noah Syndergaard, who could have still been on the Mets. Imagine that. Patrick Sandoval, 1.29 ERA. Noah Syndergaard, a 2.12 ERA. We're talking about 3 starters with an ERA under 3. That'll get the job done for you. Trout has been Mike Trout in his last 11 games, got a 400 batting average. The Angels are 7-3 in their last 10 and 2.5 games up on the Mariners and Astros in that division. Obviously, it's early, but to me, that is a good, pleasant surprise for the people of the West Coast Angels fans. And to me, the Yankees are a surprise because a couple weeks ago, they were 7-6 and kind of like, they couldn't quite figure it out. They've won their last 10, and it's because they've been hitting the ball. Aaron Judge has been really good, but Anthony Rizzo has been as good as it gets. Gleyber Torres has come up in huge situations. Anthony Rizzo leads the team with 9 home runs, 21 RBIs, and the only player hitting above 300 is Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, which is pretty unbelievable to think one guy who isn't a star is the only guy hitting above 300, and yet they've won 10 straight games. So they've done it with pitching as well. Cole has started to figure it out, but Jordan Montgomery and Nestor Cortez, all 3 of those guys have an ERA under 3. So they've done it in every which way. And again, another huge series. They're in Toronto. They won last night. And this is a huge early season series because you can really start to separate yourselves early on. And I get it. We've got months and months left of the season. But if you separate yourself by 7 or 8 games early on, that's a big deal. So those are my 3. So same 3.
For me, Eric Hosmer, where'd he go? Right? Thought he was out of the game. Hitting 389 through April. Good for him. Added him to my fantasy team. I'd rather have 389 than Franmil Reyes and his freaking 134 batting average. Disappointment. The other is Carlos Rodon had some great peripherals with the White Sox last year, though he was hurt. He goes to San Francisco, and they're now the pitching whisperers out there. Him, Alex Wood, everybody they seem to get. They Anthony DeSclafani last year, they seem to turn them into what they're always supposed to be. Rodon, to me, is the early Cy Young guy in the NL, striking out a ton of players, and they're gonna make the Giants really, really good. The other big surprise, because you guys took all my other teams, how the hell did the Boston Red Sox win 9 games?
Oh, that's my disappointment.
That we got to get to that.
Well, that's a surprise to me because they're awful.
Do the flip side,
right?
But the surprise is how much I'm enjoying it. So okay, let's get to the bad.
That's a surprise to you?
I just hate.
If you would have said, "Oh, the Red Sox are going to be 9-14," I would have been like, "Oh, that's enjoyable."
It is enjoyable.
Okay, then I'll go to the flip side. But a quick P.S. Kevin Gausman, what he's still doing in Toronto, the guy still hasn't had a walk. Unbelievable. So, Sean, your point about the Giants, it is amazing what they're doing with those pitchers.
Yeah, he turned him around too. I forgot about him.
All right, so now you can, throw flowers at me and smile because the Sox stink. And I'm talking about both pairs of Sox at the plate, Boston and Chicago. Okay? Neither team can hit. In Boston, Dalbec, first baseman, had 3 RBIs, hitting 147, had to sit, to put Frenchie Cordero in, who belongs in AAA for life, Story has no homers, hitting 217. In Chicago, Luis Albert is at 224 and Abreu 219. I think those two I know are not, but the hits do not just keep on coming in Beantown or the Windy City. Now, I heard in the car the other day a radio announcer called what he thought was a homer, and then it just died at the track. And he said, this great line, in this sport's history, the one thing that should not change is the baseball, yet it does. Okay? It's just not the same. You've got 19 teams hitting under 240. 8 are under 200. We should bring Mendoza back, make him a manager. Arizona is hitting 181. 181. It must be the cold weather in Phoenix. Or maybe it's the ball. And then lastly, the Cincinnati Reds Fans' faces are red. Those are the ones you see that don't have the bag over their head. Cincy is hitting .201, has 64 runs batted in as a team, an ERA of 6.15. They are 3-19 as we speak, 1-7 at home. The most historic or longest running professional baseball team has no owner, and the fans have had enough. Can't get much worse than that.
Most of not all are the same this time, but two of them are the same. The Boston Red Sox are my biggest disappointment. Not that we thought they were going to be good, because I don't think we thought they were going to be good, but I think we thought they were going to be mediocre along with the Yankees. That was kind of the consensus. Like, they'll be somewhere, in the mix. But they just have been pretty terrible. Nick Pavetta is a total freaking conundrum. He's 0-4, hasn't gone 5 innings in any of his 4 starts, and he's averaging almost 6 walks per 9. That is horrendous. They're 9-14. They're in the basement. They're right there with the Orioles, which anytime you get mentioned with the Orioles, that's really not a good thing. Mm-hmm. They've lost 4 straight series after winning quite a few series to start the season. Yep. Granted, they have been to the Jays, the Rays, the Jays, and then the Orioles. My other disappointment is the Braves. And I say this kind of knowing there is the potential for a very quick turnaround here. But I'm a little surprised at how sluggish the start has been for them. One of the positives is that Ronald Acuna Jr. is back. He is, and I would like to know what you guys think of this. I was a little taken aback, but Buster Olney on the broadcast the other night called him the best all-around player in baseball. And I thought, whoa, okay, he's certainly up there. He's good. I'm just not
now.
Sure he's the
saying
first
right
name.
Now.
Yeah, right now. I'm just not sure he's the first name that would come to mind when you said name the best all-around player in baseball. I would still say Mike Trout.
Byron Buxton right now too.
Acuna or Tatis is who I would say.
Well, Tatis for me can't field well enough.
Yeah,
he's got way too many errors.
Acuna does everything. I have no problem. If that's what Olney said, I don't have a problem with that. I think Acuna is that good.
Yeah, I think he has the potential. I just don't think if I'm saying, like, somebody says, name the best all-around player in baseball, I just don't think he's the first name that comes out of my mouth.
Did you see Trout? I don't know if it was last night or the night. 0-4 with 4 strikeouts. The golden sombrero.
Well, couldn't have been all that recently because he's hitting 400 in his last 10 games. So
yeah, I think it was last night.
Okay.
But Trout's Trout.
Yeah, tough he's playing very well. I was just interested in that. Either way, the Braves, they'll figure it out. They've got Ronald Acuna Jr. back. The bright spot has been Kyle Wright, who a year ago was in AAA. He's been a top-of-the-line starter for them. 1.13 ERA. I mean, you would beg for that from anyone. 34 strikeouts, 24 innings, and only 6 walks. So I think it'll come around for the Braves, but I'm pretty disappointed in them so far. And then the White Sox for me also, 9-13. Dallas Keuchel has been horrendous. Yeah. He is not the Dallas Keuchel of old. He has an 8.40 ERA. That is very not good. And yeah, they're 4.5 games back of the Twins in the division right now. Again, things can happen, and you separate yourself too much, you get in trouble. But Tim Anderson is the only guy on that team hitting above 300. So not great.
All right. You guys took all my thunder, so I'm going to make a few things up on the fly.
Do it.
Okay. My biggest disappointment with baseball is that Angel Hernandez is still gainfully employed. Because God bless Kyle Schwarber. God bless Kyle Schwarber. He spoke for the rest of the country when he went off on Hernandez on that awful.
Oh, that pitch. Oh, my God.
That was terrible last week. I'm going a little off the field. Another disappointment with baseball is the lack of a salary floor in the CBA.
Yep.
It allows the A's to have a AAA team that's overachieving now, even though they had a really bad week. And,
no doubt.
It's kind of going the wrong way. It allows the Reds to be 3-19. It's just not good. The Pirates, all those other teams. Mm-hmm. Cleveland's winning despite having minimal salary, and the Orioles are playing for a couple years out. It's just not good for the game. The other part, I'm gonna personalize it with the A's. My disappointment is the Bay Area media. there's a lot of people out there that seem to have an agenda from the San Francisco side of the Bay that they want the A's to move. And I don't think the A's are getting good coverage out there. I actually got in a little Twitter squabble with a radio personality out there who
Did you get suspended?
No, I didn't get suspended. But I got a text from our producer, the president of Godzilla Media, who saw my response to this radio who I'd never heard of. And he goes, "Hey, that's a friend of mine. He's from Schenectady." I'm like, "I've never heard of him." The guy was basically saying all the haters, and this guy's been going back and forth with A's president Dave Cavall. They want to do a live debate, which I understand is now going to be, it was supposed to be last Friday. Now it's going to be Wednesday. You couldn't pay me to watch it. And I just wrote, "Hey, you guys are both garbage." Okay. So then he had a tweet that said, all the haters on the Oakland side. This guy, if you go back and look at his history, he's got a big agenda. He hates the A's. They had a to do with them a few years ago, whatever. So he talked about the haters, and I'm like, dude, I never heard of you. So to me, guys like you are talking about haters. You want people to hate you because it gives you a sense of relevance that you're seeking. His response was to look at my Twitter bio, give him credit, and bring my kids into the conversation. Fake tough is what we call it. But it was pretty funny. I took it as a plug for my book and laughed it off. He called himself, I think, Mr. Schenectady, and I said, "Hey, good for you. Have a nice day." I call it like I see it, and that's the last time I heard from him. So, F him. That's it. That's my baseball.
Okay.
I'm not going to name the major league team, but I did go to a game once, comp through a friend that worked for that team. And they were promoting the first 10,000 fans would get a so-and-so bobblehead. And the announced attendance was 7,400. So I said to him, "What are you going to do with the other 2,600 bobbleheads?" I said, "Come by my office. I got like 10 extra."
Oh, my God.
And fortunately, they gave them out to, community and kids like that. But
that's crazy.
It's embarrassing.
They couldn't even give away all the bobbleheads. That's like the one night everybody comes.
Exactly. But that's what's happening, especially now in Cincinnati. And it's sad. Sean, I agree with you. There's got to be something done about the cap, because these are historic sports franchises we're talking about in Baltimore, Oakland, Pittsburgh. And you have an obligation as an owner to do something about this.
You have to have teams to play against. I've said it before.
Yeah.
Okay, the Yankees can be the but you need opponents. That's what makes your league. And teams don't have to spend money. But when you're getting $100 million as a cut of the TV revenue, and your salary, or $30 million is your team payroll,
right?
That's embarrassing. That's just embarrassing. And that's why you draw 24-88 last night in Oakland for Tampa. And that it is what it is. And it's terrible. But you know what? I've got my shirt on so far this week. It's not the A shirt, but I'm enjoying this group, this young kids. Christian Pache, he's got to learn to hit a little better. He's a Gold Glover out there in center field. He's become a star in the Bay Area. I saw a Twitter thing, him and a kid 2 weeks ago. Kid's like, "Hey, how many hits do I need to get in my game today?" And I meet you. And the kid got a couple of hits. And next thing you know, Pache, they both they met the next day. He DM'd the kid's dad. I think he sent a limo for him, and they met before the game and signed autographs and stuff. And that's what's awesome.
Yeah.
About
and
baseball.
Listen, that's a kid that doesn't even have money yet.
Yeah.
Like real money. You know what I mean? Like he's not a multi-millionaire.
Yeah. So yeah, all good. It's all good. The A's are 10-13 in a major funk, but that's okay. It's like I've said before, enjoy the
10-13 is not the worst. If you could hover around 500, that would be okay.
It would be a huge win, to be honest with you. I think that team would have to battle to get 70 wins. They just can't really hit. So anyway, hey, this spring, as we all know, it's the perfect time to get top dollar for your trade-in with the Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. Same day check in your hand the day you trade in your vehicle. The new vehicle inventory continues to roll in at Mohawk Honda. To follow the newest vehicles coming in, follow Mohawk Honda on their Facebook, Twitter, and social media platforms. All of Mohawk Honda's sales and leasing consultants will work with you to find the best vehicle for your budget and lifestyle. So visit Mohawk Honda in Glenville, New York this spring. Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you.
You.
All right, NBA. Let's see what happens here. How big is the Joel Embiid injury? I think we know the answer to that, because this series, basically, it was like, hey, he might be out till game 3 or game 4 with a fractured orbital bone, which he's already had, and a concussion. So let's see if James Harden can carry this team. The answer to that question is no.
No. Oh, I think we all agree with that. He's not what he used to be. He really isn't, John.
He doesn't look like he can beat anybody one-on-one.
No.
James Harden?
Yeah.
What did he used to be? He's always been a single-minded, non-team player guy that can score and dish when he wants to.
An offensive machine.
He can't score. He can't even do that.
Right. If he can't score, he needs to sit. That is all he does. No, they're in trouble.
I think the reason that people thought he would be successful in Philly, and not that it's a failed experiment yet, is because of a guy like Joel Embiid, who's the ultimate team player, who can score, who can pass. The pick and roll with the two of them early on especially was really, really good. But that team without Joel Embiid is not even a team.
No, he's the MVP of the league this year. Without him, I mean, they need to rush him back. I can't imagine they're going to do very well in game 2 either. Maybe get him back on the floor for game 3 and try and square the series in Philly and make it a best of 3. That's probably the best they can hope for right now.
Yeah, but even that I think is still like a fractured orbital bone is not, he used to wear that mask for a while and now he's going to be back to it. But that's not like an injury that if he gets hit in the face, there's going to be real problems. It's not like, hey, I've got a torn ligament in my pinky that I can play with and get fixed at the end of the year. Like you mess up your face,
he's going to get hit. He's going to get hit.
Well, they'll go after him. No question.
Inadvertent elbow, something. He's going to get hit because they're going to test him.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to. Interesting to see what the Celtics see if they can respond. They were surprised. They were talking about the physicality that the Bucks brought in game 1. I don't know. I have Boston winning it all, but right now I'm a little nervous.
Well, I think it's time to remind the guy in the mirror here that Giannis and the Bucks are indeed the defending champions, because they sure looked at the other night. They looked like they could take this thing pretty quickly. He dominated in the paint. He had a triple-double in game 1, and he was probably able to visit that great festival they kept talking about in Boston because he deserved it. He was 9 for 25 with 5 turnovers, but he had 24, 13, and 12 assists, and he deserves an assist for that awesome off-the-glass rebound. That play was phenomenal. The coverage of him opened up looks for the teammates. This is what's scary here, is the Celtics took 53 pointers. They needed a passport to get into the paint. They didn't even try. Tatum and Smart were 9 for 29. So something has to be done there. They just can't rely on the threes. They've got to find a way to attack Giannis, because he didn't even break a sweat after the game, and he was so serious about, this is great. We're on a mission. It's time that they get the respect they deserve. They really dominated a very hot team.
Yeah, listen, he's the most likable guy in all of the NBA, I think. For me, his post-game pressers are must-watch, win or lose, because he's just so damn likable. But I think the biggest difference, we've talked about how good the Celtics defense is. Brooklyn doesn't play defense. So, yes, the Celtics did a really good job on Brooklyn's offense, but Brooklyn doesn't play defense. Yeah. Now you're up against a Bucks team that plays defense and plays it really well. And I think we saw they were settling for 3-pointers because they couldn't get into the paint. You say they didn't try. I think they tried and just didn't do a very good job of it because of the job Milwaukee's D did. But this is all without Chris Middleton too, which is kind of unbelievable. Like, Chris Middleton is the second best player on that team, and they're doing it without him. Giannis is carrying the load, and you've got guys like Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis who have stepped up into roles. They both had, I think Portis had a double-double, and Drew Holiday was a rebound short of a double-double. So, and they held Tatum. Listen, Tatum had a decent game. He had 21 points, 6 boards, and 6 assists. But Jaylen Brown struggled. I mean, he was 4 for 13 from the floor, 7 turnovers. Not good.
That's one game. And the Celtics had to also kick off a little rust, I think. They had a couple days off, more than, I don't know, maybe I'm making excuses for them, but we'll see. I know they're a little banged up now, but we're going to find out what they have, because you go down to an 0-2 hole at home. Yeah. You may not come back and play anymore.
But they're talking about Marcus Smart being questionable for game 2. If they're without Marcus Smart in game 2, that's not going to be a fun game either. And then you're down 0-2 and you're going back to Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. For sure.
Steph and the Dubs looked awesome. That game was phenomenal. really is. Morant looks like a tiny little fly out there. He doesn't look physical at all, but he's so hard to play against. And that series is going to be so enjoyable.
Yeah, that game was awesome.
It really was. But credit to Memphis, because I do think that they'll win the next one at home. I really do. But the Warriors have everybody that they need out there now, and they're playing it. And they're on a mission too. But that series really is the one that we think can go long, because the other ones are involving key injuries. And now you're talking about a team that's healthy here.
Yeah, and I also think at the end of the day, the Warriors played a little less than 3/4 of that game without Draymond Green, who is the guy that runs that defense.
Yeah.
So I think he makes a big difference if he's there. What did you watch the flagrant 2 call? What did you think? I think it was a little more reputation than actual call. I didn't love the play. But it wasn't egregious. And he was trying to hold them up at the end. I know it was a little bit late. I'm just not sure that gets called a flagrant 2 if he's not Draymond Green.
His reputation precedes it. Eric and I know that as in hockey with Brad Marchand.
Yep.
He skates within 2 feet of somebody. He sits for 6 games on a suspension. So
yes,
reputation counts and repeat offender counts. And they're just not going to give you the benefit of the doubt, whether it's warranted or not. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, but Jordan Poole's been great for that team, Eric. And he had 31 points. And, oh, by the way, came off the bench because they started Gary Payton II for defensive purposes to try to do his, work on Ja.
He's just emerged, and he was. I don't know if you could say he was carrying them during the injuries, but he sure was doing that to some extent.
Yeah.
And you add him now to that lineup, it's just incredible. You can keep guys much more fresh at this time of year. And frankly, the guys that were injured are fresh now. If you're going to be injured, let's hope it's in November and December, and that you come back and you're at full health. But Poole has just been awesome, and he's a lot of talent there, and he's really could be. I'm not saying a missing link, but he could be a very key factor for them. The way he continues to play, very exciting.
And you're setting up for a Phoenix Golden State final, which would be magic. Phoenix,
that would be awesome.
They could probably get by Dallas, even Devin Booker, even half speed to rest up and get him healthy. They're deep enough. Dallas just doesn't have enough behind Luka, but that would be a great series to watch in the East. I mean, Ashley, I'm going to call them your Miami Heat. They're looking the part. You picked them in the beginning.
No, I know.
So,
yeah. If Luka has to score 45 and you still can't win, Dallas can't get it done. Like when Luka scores 45, you have to win because somebody has to do something else to get it done. And Jason Kidd said that, like, hey, Luka was incredible, but somebody else got to join the party. And if they don't, then it's just not going to happen for us. He is a generational talent, but he needs more help. And I looked, it's so funny. I looked at the Golden State roster, the starting lineup. And then I looked at, the Mavericks lineup, the starting lineup. And I thought, well, it's no wonder, like, you have 2 teams in the West and they're just 2 very different teams. I know they're not playing each other, but you've got a guy like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. And then, oh, by the way, a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who's finally playing on a good team.
Yes.
And then a guy like Jordan Poole, who has emerged. And then you have Luka and everybody else. And it's not names that jump off the page at you that you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, yep, that guy. He doesn't have the surrounding cast that everyone else has, but they're in the position they're in because of a guy like him. Yeah,
we'll see. But again, back to the Celtics. I hope they can make this a series.
Yeah.
But we're very, very potentially looking at a rematch from last year with the Bucks and Suns. Big great series last year. They do it again.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right,
it's not out of the question. I could see that, and I again, you know how I feel about Chris Paul. I really want to see him hoist that thing at the end. I really do.
Yeah, and they may be the most. They feel just like such a well-rounded team to me. The other night they had all 5 of their starters in double figures and Cam Johnson off the bench in double figures. There aren't enough teams in the NBA that can do that. And they're one of them, and they just kind of do it quietly. Like everybody has really good games, and it works out for them. And Devin Booker's a star, don't get me wrong. But when you've got a guy like DeAndre Ayton and you've got Chris Paul, who is just the class of the veteran, you know what I mean? And we've all said I would love to see him get a title just because of what he's done for the game and how much of a class guy he's been. But that team to me is just so well-rounded.
We ready for the whiteboards?
Ready.
The finale. Drum roll.
The finale. Who's going first?
I'll go first this week. How's that?
Do it.
I usually don't care. I usually defer. But...
Go on.
So, have you guys ever had a mint julep?
Not the mint julep from the Derby,
Right.
no.
Have you ever had paint thinner? Same thing.
Well, that's like most liquor.
Same thing, but green colored.
We tried to make them once in college. It was an epic fail. About as epic of a failure as my Derby picks, which I'm going to make right now.
Oh.
So on my other podcast, Pugsley's Pit, yesterday I made my Derby picks before the post positions come out. So if anybody saw that show and they see this and they see it different, no, I'm not waffling. I just don't like Modonigal anymore at 10-1 because he's running out of the one hole, and that's a disaster for a horse like him. So for the Derby picks, we're going to go with White Abario, running out of the 15-hole, 10-1. Nice little morning line.
Wow.
Yeah, Messier will as the play source, mostly because I don't think the Rangers win too much, so I can't put him up top, 8-1. Epicenter is one of the favorites, 7-2, running out of the 3-hole, and watch out for Charge It in the post position 8, 20-1.
Charge it.
I'll look forward to that on Saturday. We got a big family weekend planned, and that's going to be kind of a centerpiece and a highlight. And
cool.
Watch the whole thing and let them sing "My Old Kentucky Home" while the horses come out with the pomp and circumstance going on at Churchill Downs. So there you go. Don't bet on it, and if you do, don't blame me. I think I've hit the Derby 3 times in X
it's
number.
So
of
hard.
years.
Do you want to borrow one of Ashley's hats that she has to wear at Saratoga, for the Travers? Right? Do you ever wear those, Ashley?
What are they called? There's a name. Fascinators.
Fascinators. Like something out of Bridgerton. Yeah.
Great name, but I don't have one. They're too expensive. And I'm just not that type of person. I can't.
Does the station pay for that?
I can't pull it off. No.
I feel expense report.
Yep, no.
No.
Again, no.
You want me to make a call on your behalf?
What's that?
I know a few people over there. You want me to make a phone call?
Yeah, sure, please. Okay. Tell them I need a fascinator for my track.
Fascinator. Okay.
Fascinator. Go ahead. No Ashley, problem. You got it, because I'm going to have a really positive emotional piece. I've been kind of down on negative stuff lately.
So me first?
Sure.
All right. We've talked a lot about the Mets. Cano is my whiteboard, because I think for the first time, and this is why the Mets have been so successful, for the first time in a very long time, leadership, ownership, a guy named Steve Cohen is finally making decisions that are best for the team, even if that means eating close to $40 million to designate a guy like Robinson Cano. And I know there are Mets fans who love Robinson Cano. His teammates love Robinson Cano. They say he's a great guy. He's coming off his second suspension for PEDs, didn't play at all last season, has not been able to get into a groove. And instead of keeping him around and sending a guy like Dom Smith down or someone else, they cut their losses. They're going to pay the $37.6 million, which sounds egregious and sounds like a terrible idea, but I think it's a good idea. They're finally doing something. And Steve Cohen said, make the baseball decision. Do whatever you have to do that you think is best for our baseball team. Well, finally, that's why Mets fans should be excited, because they are finally doing what's best for their baseball team, even if it means their rich owner has to pay $40 million to Robinson Cano so that he can walk. So good for the Mets. I think that's just one example of why they are winning and will continue to win for much of this season.
That's more than the A's payroll that he just cut. I wish he had a brother, a son, or an alias, a double.
You know what? You could convince
personality.
him to come play for the A's because you wouldn't even have to pay him. You could pay him like $1 million.
No,
and he
I
would
wish
pay
Mr.
because
Cohen was a split personality, and the other half could go buy the A's. I'd kill for that.
Yeah.
It's a great statement, Ashley. Talk about changing a culture, huh? No question.
Yeah.
And by the way, with the Mets, one thing I want to bring up before, I like the way they stood up for themselves. They're getting a lot of players
they're getting beaned.
And that to me shows that's a team. It's camaraderie and good for them for standing up for themselves.
Yep.
Brett and Chloe. Okay,
I love this story.
This isn't The Bachelorette or anything like that. Folks, Brett Phillips plays with the Rays. He is more of an all-star to an 8-year-old girl named Chloe Grimes. She had cancer issues for 6 years. He is her favorite player. Here's why. First of all, she threw out a first pitch to Brett. He comes out 20 minutes before the game to talk to kids, okay? Mm-hmm. Even on a third out in right field, when nobody on base and third out, he catches it right, and then he went over, handed a ball, and talked to kids before he goes to the dugout. Where is this kid from? Mm-hmm. Let's clone him, okay? She brought gifts to Brett, no less, including a rally bracelet that raises funds for Chloe that the family did. He wore it as she hoped it would bring good luck. I'm sorry, I'll hold up on this. It did. He said he hit the hardest ball in his career, a home run that he probably could not take his eye off of in a good way. That's what you see in the movies. He then surprised her at her home and brought the home run ball to Chloe. She said, he gave me spirit to beat the butt out of cancer. He says, I've been blessed with a platform to spread joy and love on a daily basis. God love you, Brett Phillips. Thank you, Brett, for using your platform to appreciate and show love to a young child. And thank you, Chloe, for being strong and giving Brett and all of us inspiration.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. Yeah, I saw that. I might have even been watching that game live when she threw out the first pitch, and they kept going back to her. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. That is what baseball is all about. Sure. And that is what sports can do. They just need to do it more often. It's not enough of the big stars doing that. It's more of like, the guys like Brett Phillips. Giannis does it a lot too. But I just think leagues would be smart to really open up their players and kind of push them to do stuff like that if they don't already.
I think I may have mentioned the show about what the Mets did for my nephew years ago with Make-A-Wish. That they, those are the Hernandez Carter Mets, okay? And all of them came out and they greeted all the kids. And for one day, Mike and I thought the Mets were the best team in sports history. So it can be done just like it was then. And it's nice to see a young man that gets it. He appreciates the platform that he has. Absolutely remarkable, and it needs to continue. We need more of this. We really do.
Yeah, I went to cover, I went down to Citi Field in 2015. So you guys remember the story about Sean and Seamus Evans from Galway running across the country? Yeah. He pushed his son across the country. He has cerebral palsy. So in like a running chair, and they went from Seattle to New York City. And then on that final day, they walked into the Atlantic Ocean, and then they went to be honored by the Mets. And so Seamus and his dad and the whole family are out on the field during warmups. And I mean, just one after the other. This was when Curtis Granderson played for the Mets. And so the guys who spent so much time, Curtis Granderson and David Wright, I mean, just minutes upon minutes, they stood out there, signed balls, took pictures, and just talked to them. And that's all they want is like, they would rather have the chat and the conversation even than the signed ball and the picture. So those guys it just shows you the personality. And listen, David Wright has always been that guy. He's known for being that guy. But Curtis Granderson was so cool. And there were a few others I'd have to think about who were there, but those two guys stood out. And those are the moments that people will remember forever. And those make fans. Like those make Mets fans out of people who are not otherwise Mets fans, or those make Rays fans out of people who may not have otherwise been Rays fans. So it's the smart thing to do, but it's also the right thing to do, which is awesome.
And Sean, Muggsy Bogues, when I was with the Warriors, did anything and everything asked. Anything. Kids loved him. Cool. He loved the kids. He knew he was blessed. and he had the platform, and he knew it, and he was blessed, and he wanted to put smiles on kids' faces. They are out there, folks. They really are.
That's cool. I loved Muggsy. All right. Is that it?
Do it again next week?
We'll do it again next week. Yes, we will. We can talk about the Derby if we want, see how that went. And yeah, we'll update you on some NBA, NHL playoffs. We'll do it all. Thanks for joining us. Sean, Eric, Ashley, M&M&M across the board. You can find us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter at M&M&ATB1. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye, all.